This episode of Jocks and Jills is brought to you by Shark Ninja, and today we want to tell you about the Ninja Creamy, the 7-in-1 ice cream maker by Ninja Kitchen. You can turn anything into ice cream, sorbet, milkshakes, and more. You can have total control of your ingredients for low sugar, keto, dairy-free, vegan options. Make your ice cream, to your personal dietary preferences. So from sweet to savory and healthy to indulgent, there's a creamy treat for everyone. Create flavors and mix in combinations that you can't find in the store. Tessa, summer's coming. We are looking forward to making some ice cream with Ninja Kitchen. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Tis the season.
Yeah, it really is. I know it was rainy all weekend if you're in the GTA, but ice cream season is coming in hot and you need a Ninja Creamy to prepare. So thank you very much, Shark Ninja, for being our presenting sponsor here at Jocks and Jills and proud founding partner of the PWHL.
All right, speaking of weekends, Julia, I'm cutting you off. I'm not even letting you start this one. I knew you were I wasn't even gonna warn you about it. Yep, do your normal thing. Episode 37, that is the correct number. We are on episode 37. We are stoked to be in episode 37 of season 2. I feel like time's flown by. We've had a ton of fun with everybody. But listen, this weekend was a blast because it was Julia's birthday, everyone. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I love my little phone call from the tiny kids, the tiny Bonum Fiore kids, and my happy birthday song. Unfortunately, Theo did fall off the couch at the end.
He face planted right off of the couch. Yeah, so we have to let you go. I apologize.
It was an epic happy birthday wish, I have to say.
He was so excited, and then it all just went to crap, so we apologize. Nonetheless, there are some very well-colored pictures here for you as well that I can drop off. I also have another birthday gift for you. I heard you got a new brush, first of all, which is massive. As soon as I saw the post, I was like, it's the start of a new era. I'm like, Julia, new year for Julia, new brush for Julia.
Yeah, it was gifted to me. Marissa Roberto got it for me. And Liam was like, is she even going to use this? Like, Julia loves her crusty little brush. But Marissa made a great point. She was like, no, she needed a new brush gifted to her. Like, I couldn't purchase the new brush or else it wouldn't be lucky. Correct. It wouldn't have the same vibes. And Marissa, she's into the woo-woo stuff like me. So she gifted me the brush. I know it's lucky. So I will use a new brush, guys. You don't have to look at my crusty, dusty old brush anymore. The crusty, dusty old brush might end up in my background, to be honest with you.
Oh, please don't. We don't need to.
So you all have to look at it all the time.
Lay that thing to rest.
Let her rest.
You also got another birthday gift. I unfortunately didn't get any time to drop it off to you when I saw you on the weekend when we met up for a couple beverages. But this was sent to my door. Can you see it?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I can. Guys, if you're not watching on YouTube or on Spotify video right now, it is the Taylor Heisey, Grace Sumwinkle, Black Cat, Golden Retriever t-shirts. I was so pumped. I put these up on the Jocks and Jills account over the weekend. These are the perfect things for us because if anyone listening has spent any time with Tessa or I, you guys know this is the definition of us. Like, we are Black Cat, Golden Retriever as well. I'm like, Tessa, you talk to these people while I sit on TikTok for a minute so I don't have to be social.
But wait, so that makes you what? The cat?
That makes me the Black Cat. And you're the Golden Retriever. Okay. You're always wagging your tail looking to talk. Like, it's amazing. So we have that balance. You could be the talker for me sometimes when I'm in my non-talking moods. And, you know, like you do all the interview setting up and like the talking to people. And I do all the hiding behind my laptop screen and being antisocial.
It's funny because your Jen does the Black Cat, Golden Retriever thing. And myself, like whenever people are like, what animal are you? I always go right back to Homeward Bound. I don't know if you've seen that movie, if you were born yet or whatever. What?
If you were born yet or whatever. I haven't seen Homeward Bound. Well, maybe you'll start talking about it and I'll be like, oh, I have seen it. What's it about?
It's where the two dogs and the cat get lost.
No.
You know what I'm talking about? This is like where my childhood trauma began, along with the beginning of Land Before Time. Have you seen
Land Before Time is traumatizing.
I don't know why that's not a for kids movie as far as I'm concerned. The beginning, at least. That's where all the trauma begins. But Homeward Bound, where the cat, the dog, and the two dogs and the cat have to work together. There's like a golden retriever, the older dog.
No.
And then there's like what?
I'm sorry.
You and I are watching this on our next trip and just pack the Kleenex. But anyways, I always identify like which one, what part of my life am I in? Like what animal am I now? You know what I mean?
And you're working to it. Yeah, you're the golden retriever era always.
I'm the old dog.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, guys, you got to check out those shirts from Heisey and Zumwinkle. They're amazing. And we in like one of the very first episodes of the podcast, Taylor Heisey broke down for us like why they are a black cat and a golden retriever.
Yeah.
So we put that up again over the weekend. My birthday was ideal this year, Tessa.
Good. I like that for you.
Sunday. I love a Sunday. Went a little sideways to start the day though, because Liam woke me up with mimosas, which is exciting, except we had a 9:30 workout booked. So we had mimosas first and then we worked out, and I was like looking over at him during class like, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm just going to keep kicking my legs. It was like hot Pilates at 9:30 after drinking a bottle of Prosecco beforehand. And then we went back to the brunch after. Yeah, it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. Both Toronto hockey teams played, Scepters and Leafs. It was the stars line for me. It was a rainy weekend. I mentioned that off the top, but I kind of love that too. Excuse to be lazy, just kind of tuck in. So great weekend all around.
Playing guilty at a workout. Good for you.
I wasn't even playing guilty. Like, I was playing buzzed. I was doing my squats and my little leg kicks, and I'm like, I'm kind of feeling this right now. Maybe this is the hack.
Turn the music up.
The best pre-workout ever. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling this.
You might be onto something.
And then I burped and I kind of like tasted throw up in my mouth, and I was like, okay, I want to go home now. This is actually a really bad idea.
This was not a good idea.
Sounded like a way better idea. Anyways. I'm trying to think if we have anything else we need to touch everyone.
Honestly, I've had a recently, I don't know if it's the weather or whatnot, like Ed and I went out and met up with you and Liam and your gal pal.
Yeah.
For a couple bevies, and
that was fun. Little Bar Wellington moment, and it was late night too. This was funny. I didn't actually even tell you this. We were at dinner, and I was like, "Okay, time to go home, Liam." He's like, "No, I think we need to go for a couple drinks." I'm like, "No, we got drinks at home. Like, let's just go home." He's like, "No, we need to go to the bar." And I was like, "Okay, clearly something's going on. When have we ever needed to go to the bar?" So I was like, I had a feeling I might see some friends tonight. And I was pumped when you and Ed walked in.
Love it. Yeah, we were. We decided to venture downtown. He had a friend in from Bishop's University, his buddy Lonnie. This guy's a beauty. I love him so much. From the second I met him, I was like, we're going to be friends for a long time. Met up with him. He was in town with some high school kids that he brought to a Raptors game. And then we went to Sugo for dinner on
that was your maiden voyage, wasn't it?
That was your suggestion.
Dude, the guys at Sugo are so good.
Yeah, Alex, good. You're the man. I was like, yeah, whatever. It just looks like basic Italian. I'll go there and grab some food. Ed and I ate enough food for probably 4 people. The bartender was looking at us the whole time because we sat at the bar, and he was like sideways looking like, are you guys actually demoing all this food? And it's like, we weren't even really like, we were talking, but mostly it was like, this is good. Take a bite of this. Like, you need to eat more of this. Stop eating a lot of that. I want more of that. Anyways, Sugo, love you. If you're ever in Toronto, anybody, scope them out. Get there.
You got to
fill your belly like fast for like 24 hours.
They always treat the girls so well too. They love the girls that play hockey. All the PWHL girls always hit up Sugo when they're in town. I actually, honestly, I left that out of my birthday weekend recap, but we did order in Sugo last night. That was the last supper. Yeah, I'm not even lying. That's what we ordered last night.
Dude, and Alex hooked us up with a hat, literally. And Ed's like so hat picky, and he put the Sugo hat on, and we got in the car. He's like, well, this is my new favorite hat. And I'm like, is it the gnocchi that made you say that? Or like, what was it? Anyways, he wears the hat all the time.
Too. They're the nice fitted 47 caps. Like, you and I have the same one, that green one. They're so nice. I love that spot. Nice. Yeah.
I
can't say enough good things about Sugo.
And that wasn't even our only date night out. We went out back-to-back nights, Ed and I. We had a 40th birthday. Swear to God. The first night, Theo woke up when we got home at around midnight. Thank you, Linda and Dan, for staying and watching our kids till midnight. We were like a half hour late. Theo woke up and was pissed. I like went up to Linda's like, you got to go see him. He's mad. So I go up. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, you were gone for too long. That was like 10 hours. So I'm like, maybe it was. I'm not sure. But like, mom and dad need to go out sometimes. He's like, you're never allowed out again. I don't want anyone babysitting us. And I moonwalked out of the room like, he has got no idea what's coming tomorrow. Our niece Victoria came over, which they were so pumped about because they obviously love their cousins, and she babysat them and whatever. We had a good time at our 40th as well. So we were like double dipping back-to-back late nights. It was like date nights, I should say. It was awesome.
Yeah, you guys got to have fun. We've got another, I've been calling our Tuesday night PWHL games our going out nights. Me and you, we get to go to Montreal this weekend, Tessa.
I know. It's funny because you're like,
our Tuesday night.
Yeah, you're like, Tuesday nights. Like, who drinks on a Tuesday night? I'm like, I do with my Shirley girlies, and I eat wings. And that's why I ordered wings in Ottawa. And I'm ordering wings again in Montreal. Although,
exactly.
I might swap it for a dirty poutine. I'm not sure. However, there will be beers.
We might have to follow the vibes of the city that we're in. It might be a poutine kind of evening. We're going to do a meet and greet there, guys, before the game.
Yes.
Make sure you keep an eye on our social media for exact location and stuff like that. We're also going to do Tessa's takes between periods again.
We're not going to screw it up. Don't worry. We won't screw it up.
We're not going to say too much. We won't say too little. We won't hex anyone this time. If you were at that Ottawa game last Tuesday, you know exactly what we're talking about. So we're real excited for that and excited to get into the games that happen this week, Tessa. A couple good ones. Let's start right now with headlines in the PWHL. Couple quick disciplinary things to get into, Tess, from Tuesday night's game. I think we mentioned this when we were talking about the Toronto-Boston game right at the end there when Babstock took down Comfer.
We knew something was coming.
Yeah, we did. It wasn't official when we recorded, but 2 games for slew footing. Babstock, obviously a repeat offender. She was suspended earlier this season already, and the league mentioned that in their assessment of the play. This was a bad one. Kind of a lame time of the game too. Kelly Babstock has the opportunity to be so effective because she is that not instigator, but like she's help me find the word.
She stirs the shit.
She stirs the shit. There's a word that's not coming to my brain that I'm.
It's okay. She gets things going. She's a little bit of you know, she causes trouble and mayhem, and she gets her team amped up, and that's her job. The thing with when you're that player, when you're playing that role, you're constantly, you know, playing in the gray area.
Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes you need to your gray area is like, let's say, as wide as your shoulders, right? When you first start, and then you realize you're getting suspensions and fines like this, and you kind of got to, you know, bring those barriers in a little bit to your ears, because you don't want to be playing on the line like that, because when push comes to shove, and like, look, we're in this moment right now where if you look at the standings from between Ottawa, Minnesota, and Boston, I mean, there's 4 points that separates 3rd through 5th.
Yeah.
So you can't, in these games that are so crucial, you don't want to be dancing or tiptoeing on the line. You just want to be that player that's causing a bunch of crap, getting the momentum on your team side, distracting the top players from the other team. Actually, I did an event with Darcy Tucker, and this was, when he said this, I was like, that's the smartest player in that position and in that role. He was like, I embraced my role. I was like, okay, is my team down? I'm going to run everyone through the wall and get a fight and distract their team and get in their goalie's head and do all of that. If we were up, it's like, okay, well, now how do I make myself effective? He's like, well, the only way the other team can get back in is if their star players are focused and dialed and getting opportunities. So I just got in their head. I got in their way. I was sticking them in the back of the knee, anything to get in their head and distract them from the job or the job that they had to get done. And I was like, that's perfect. This is Babstock's role. That's what she needs to do the Darcy Tucker way. Crazy eyes and all. I love Darcy Tucker's crazy eyes. Love that man.
Honestly, and he also has some pretty epic crazy eyes too, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yep. He also was like, I love that last episode on the pod. He came up and started talking about jocks. I'm like, no way. He's like, I love the league. He's like, I follow that league like crazy. It's wicked. And I was like, Darcy, man, thanks.
That's awesome.
He's got a granddaughter. He's like totally mush. He's all about women's hockey, women's sports, women's everything. He's got friendship bracelets on.
Shut up.
That says
unreal.
Papa.
That's so
Cutest.
Cute.
I know. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I wish I wore some. I could have traded you. He's like, I'm not trading this one. I was like, yeah, I know, me neither. I don't trade.
Yeah. You guys are on the same page with that. I love it. Yeah. So Kelly Babstock is just going to have to figure out how to walk the line, especially like Boston is such a hard team to play against such a major part of their identity. Something to consider, I guess, in the postseason. It's so easy to get a reputation in this league, and not that she has a reputation, but obviously eyes on her with a couple suspensions already.
And like, don't think the league's not keeping track of who's doing what. Even stuff that doesn't get called or isn't suspension worthy. Don't doubt they don't for sure they've got a running list or a file on all this stuff.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's get into that first game in St. Louis. Love St. Louis as a city. I've never been there, which is weird. I'm saying I love it as a city, but everything out of St. Louis, the hockey team, like I love the Blues. I've heard the food there is really good. Seems like they were really well received. The teams were well received in St. Louis. Love to see Layla Anderson, the girl from the 2019 Blues run, read the lineup for the Charge before the game. Obviously, she brought the luck to the Charge the same way she brought to the Blues in 2019. Didn't realize she went to Jinsey Rose's summer camp.
Yeah.
She's a camper as well, so she knows Jinsey. Right? So quite a few
There's a connection there, which is awesome. Also, thanks to everybody who showed up to that game, because that was a home game for the Cardinals as well at the same time.
Right.
So there's two major sporting events going on in that city. And the ladies put on a show for the ones that picked the right sport to go to. Yeah. It was the last game of the Takeover Tour. Like you said, this one didn't disappoint. It was a good game. I mean, it was fast, Julia, and it was exciting. I mean, it was like, 1-0 heading into the third, the last 5 minutes of the third. But there was still a lot going on in that game. I liked the way it was a prototypical Boston game, I felt. It just looked and felt that way. But for Ottawa, I was really curious on what the response would be. Were they going to play hard, but a little bit timid? Do you know what I mean? Where they're second guessing themselves and thinking a lot. And that wasn't the case. I felt like they played the same way they played in the first two periods against New York.
Well, I was worried after Boston got that first goal, to be honest, because it was kind of like what we had seen in that meltdown.
Didn't even rattle them.
Didn't rattle them at all. It was a bad turnover, and they were just whatever, guys, let's keep going. Because I was really watching after that goal, and I was like, okay, this is where the meltdown could happen if it were to happen.
And you know what? I think that's just either good conversations between the coaches and the leader, or maybe right the next day they had a practice where they got the snot skated out of them, whatever. But it was they took what they needed to from that loss against New York, deposited it into their experience bank, and threw the game away. And they're all right, let's pretend that never happened. We took from it what we needed to. Let's carry on. No surprise that Susanna Tapani scored. But what Julia was talking about with the goal there on Susanna's goal, that was a turnover, Ottawa turnover. And this is the turnovers are Ottawa's demise, okay? Because their turnovers result in goals against far too often, because
they're tape-to-tape turnovers when they're turnovers. They're not low-key turnovers.
These turnovers that turn into goals, it either means that they're not tracking and recovering properly from their mistake, and hockey is a game of mistakes, keep in mind. Mm-hmm. So there's you're constantly recovering and reacting, or the mistake is so egregious that the other team's walking down Main Street like this one and getting just a free breakaway. So a breakaway attempt and usually goal. So like you said, I'm glad that, sure, that happened, but let's carry on. We're still a good team. We're still, you're still a great goaltender, Gwyneth Phillips. And they didn't let any of that rattle them. And then there was a moment in the game when Vinisheva, by the way, I talked to Carla McLeod, her nickname, she's like, I'm not even really sure for sure how to pronounce it in Czech properly, because they say it a little bit different than us. But if you're English, it's Vinisheva, because her nickname on the Czech team is Vanish. So nice. T, we're calling you Vanish. So Vanish, love her. They thought it was a high stick. They challenged it, right? And I was like, oh no, if this doesn't go their way, is this where they just implode as well? Or do they keep pushing? However, it was still deemed a good goal, which I agreed with. Yep. And Vinisheva scores the fastest 2 goals by a single player. And this is exactly what Ottawa needed. And it's the exact player that I expected to do it, to be honest. If you had to pinpoint one player on that team, one to spark a comeback, or 2 to score 2 goals to win their team a game on Ottawa, who would it be?
Yeah, it'd be
it's
her.
Vinisheva.
I feel like we've circled her and we've circled Gabby Hughes as 2 players we're really looking to provide a spark for the Ottawa Charge. Oh, that was kind of a funny Charge pun that I made there. But Vinisheva just stepped up. She gets this pissed off look on her face when she is playing hockey. And she says, no, guys, we are not losing this game. Mm-hmm. We are going to push ourselves into a playoff spot, which they did for a short time, just based on how crazy the standings in the league are right now. But we'll get to that, which they did. She threw the team on her back. It was epic to see. It was also epic to see the way that she was received there in that minute. Just seeing Brianne Jenner so fired up, just seeing the girls so fired up, especially with how tough things were after that last game in Ottawa. That was a pivotal moment. And I think we saw what the Charge are made of based on how they came out and won that game on Saturday.
Totally. So if you think about it, there are some massive games coming up, right? Just based on the standings. Ottawa in Boston on April 2nd. Okay.
Yeah, Jamie Hirsch was talking on the broadcast, and she was saying that both coaches were saying that this Ottawa-Boston series right now is like a mini playoff series. That's exactly insane. How it looked on Saturday, and I am pumped for Wednesday.
It's going to be wild. So they all have games in hand, obviously, right? I mean, they all have games remaining. The team with the fewest games remaining is Toronto and Minnesota. They each have 3 games remaining. So that's tough on Minnesota because who's got the last game of the year? Minnesota's playing Boston on May 3rd, but that's tough in Boston. Okay. And then Ottawa's visiting Toronto. So it's like, where are you sitting? As far as I'm concerned, these 3 teams are the last 2 games. Like those games are like everyone's going to be glued to their TVs or at the game itself. Because, and they're going to be watching the other game on their phone or tracking Twitter or X, whatever the heck it's called these days.
You know, I love that.
Yeah, it's Julia's jam. This is coming down to like the wildest finish. And this is what you want in hockey. And especially with a 6-team league, you know, it's going to kind of be like this. But this is so damn close. Unless one team just totally poops the bed, then it's a runaway for all the others.
Yeah. Yeah. So, woo, what a finish we are in for with the 3 teams kind of in a log jam. Shout out to Gwyneth Phillips from that game. I know you mentioned her briefly there. Great for her to dust herself off after that Tuesday night game in Ottawa too. I thought Megan Keller was really good in this game. Frankel was really good again. Good. Yeah. For some reason, she jumped off the page even more to me on Saturday in St. Louis. Yeah, last game of the takeover tour.
I don't even think we give Megan Keller enough love, to be honest, on this podcast. Like to be, in my eyes, like top 2 defenders in the world and just contribute. She's so consistently great. And like sometimes it's not even her cannon of a shot that I'm massively in love with. It's just like doing all the little things right, making it hard for the other team's top stars to like get their job done. I don't know. It was a good signing by Boston. They got to, I mean, when it comes time to re-sign her, my gosh, just throw the house at her.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite takeover tour memory, Tessa? So 123,000 people, over 123,000 people attended the takeover tour. Started in Seattle. You and I were there. We did our first live podcast. No, that wasn't our first live podcast this season. That was in Minnesota. But our first takeover tour live podcast. We got to meet Megan and Sue Bird. Like
I know. So I'll give you my top 3. Okay, in no particular order was when Rapinoe chugged her beer on the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
The other one was Denver chanting "We want a team" and selling out that rink. I was like, that was like the hair on my arms was standing up. I was like, that is the coolest. Like, that's awesome. That's love for, you know, women's hockey. That's love for this league. That's love for women's sports. And like, they wanted it bad. And my other one was when Kath Dubois scored in Quebec City.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's such a good point. That was an amazing moment.
Yeah. And that was like tear jerking. Like, keep it together. You're a grown woman. Like, it's someone's cutting onions. We weren't even on the broadcast,
though. We were allowed to cry. It was so nice. Like, we were just eating our hot dogs and crying. Being a podcaster is freaking awesome.
Hot dog and poutine.
It's amazing. And tears. Like, we've made our lives so awesome. Yeah, those were great. What else was awesome with the takeover tour? Oh, you know what? Shout out to the Boston Fleet on Saturday in St. Louis. They found a local St. Louis jazz band or
oh yeah.
I don't know if it was a jazz band.
Hill was all about it.
Yeah, it was super cool though. They were all wearing black and they had their like blow up instruments and they were walking into the rink. That was very cool. The Boston Fleet actually showed up and showed out for each takeover tour game.
Everyone.
When it came to their pregame fits, like Seattle, they did the fisherman thing. I'm missing one thing that they did. Oh, they did something else that was really funny.
They had what was the one after that? I can't remember. There was one after that was really good. And then they did this. They need an award. We should hand out Jill awards at the end of the year. We should get little trophies made.
We will. Maybe that should be an end of the regular season type of thing. So thanks to everyone for supporting the takeover tour this year. I think that numbers are going to start to come out. I've heard that you and I have heard behind the scenes, like some of the economic like just the way that the Takeover Tour injected into local economies was really, really crazy. And I think those numbers are going to come out this week. Awesome. So we'll have some of those on Friday's episode of the podcast.
Do you think the league, when they do their award ceremony, that we'll be able to host our own little mini award ceremony, like maybe in it or during it or after it? Or as the players enter? This would be great. Yeah,
we
at the bar.
We should be the after dark award ceremony when everybody's buzzed. Yeah. So the real one ends, and then you and I can hand out awards for like best quotes of the season.
The Chili's.
Yeah. We need that. Feels like it should be hosted at a Chili's the way the Dundies are in the office though. Okay. Anyways, Sunday's game in Minnesota. Great showing for Pride for the Minnesota Frost. It was the best attended Minnesota Frost game of the season. I saw 2 different proposals, Tessa, at this game. I don't know if there were more than that, but I saw photos of at least 2. That was amazing. The walk-in fits were great. I love to see the Toronto Scepter supporting and all wearing Pride tape as well, even though it wasn't their home game. So that was all great pregame. And then the game started and it was like, oh, welcome to the party, Minnesota Frost.
Apparently the Scepters weren't aware that the game had begun and warm-ups were over. That's what it felt like. Toronto was sleeping. My God, I was like, what is happening? And even Troy, like that was the first time I think I saw Troy annoyed and like pissed. Because even when they were in their little bit of a losing skid there at the beginning of the season, he was like, no, we're doing the right things. We're working our way through it. And like his interview was like, basically like, this is absolutely unacceptable. I have no idea what's going on. We all need to get our heads out of our asses and just start playing hockey. And I was just like, that's the guy. Like, that's what I want to hear from you. Show me some of that. You know what I mean? And I'm sure the ladies see it in the locker room when they're playing like that, and as they should. But Frost ended, they were like, guys, we've lost 3 games. We got to end this. And like, they've been on a winning streak. What better team to do it when they're asleep? There was 2 goals in the first 2 minutes of this game. Like, Toronto, wake up, man. Like the goal from Heisey to Coin to Heisey, back of the net. I was like, okay, if that's
that
not,
was sick.
Wasn't even, it was like, they say it was a minute and 1 in. I'm pretty sure it felt like it was under a minute, but regardless.
Yeah.
It was so quick. It was a beautiful finish too. And they were jacked. Nice to see Heisey get going again. Like this is what Minnesota wanted to see, was for the ladies that should be on the score sheet. And the ones that like are contributors, like the secondary scoring. This is what they want to see, is let's start getting those going, because we need this. It's that time of year. You're really running out of time in games. Yeah. And the playoff push is getting super tight. And then on the second goal, that's when I was like, uh-oh. Toronto's in a little bit of trouble here. There was 4 Scepters jerseys on the right side of the net when Dominique Petrie cut in or whatever. The puck was kind of loose. I forget who wheeled around with the puck and tried to wrap around. But all 4 players were puck watching. No one looked around. Not one player looked around to find a stick or a player that was coming in. And Britta Crow danced down Broadway just like Tap did and hammered home the rebound. And I was like, uh-oh. Like, this ain't good. This is not how you play D-zone. This is not how you play, period. 2 minutes in, you got to dig yourself out of a 2-0 hole. I mean, that's tough. You've got work for yourself, fine. But, like, Minnesota's got their offense going now. So, like, good luck. And I was like, okay, second period for sure. We're going to see a new type of Toronto team. And even then I was like, like, I expected a lot more than this. Like, come on, ladies, let's get going. You know, you got Heisey, you got Curl, you got Jakes scoring, you got Shepard scoring on a wraparound, might I add.
I meant to mention this. Like, I feel like we've started a wrap. The first, like the Britta Curl goal,
listening?
It started on a wraparound, and then I feel like the girls want to be featured for their wraparounds. I don't want to give us credit for that.
Heisey's second was on a wraparound, a beauty wraparound.
It's almost like you reminded everyone how great the wraparound is, and they're like, you know what? Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
They're great. Yeah. Campbell, I felt bad, got yanked after the second period. Kirk goes in for the third.
That's almost like create a spark for your team. Let's create a new energy, even more than it is on Campbell in my mind, almost.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And goalies, I don't think, are blind to that fact. However, it's a part of the job description. Toronto did make a push, which I was like, great, that's awesome. 2 goals. It felt like they were getting things going. Watts on the board again, which was nice to see her stay hot. Minnesota just felt like a little bit too much for them. They were getting to pucks, far too often first. They were getting to rebounds first, and it felt like they were getting there just a little bit too easily. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that it wasn't because of their effort and whatnot. Kudos to them for putting that work and getting that job done. But it felt like Toronto was a very easy team to play against on that evening.
There was just a difference in desperation. Like we've talked about that word a lot at this time of the year. Desperation factors in quite a bit. Toronto could have clinched a playoff spot.
That's it.
Tonight,
that's
which
exactly
is really lame.
it.
Callie Flanagan was saying that after the game. We're disappointed in us. We could have, like, nobody wanted to be thinking about Toronto would have such a nicer, more relaxing break. So Toronto and Minnesota are both done now until after the international break. This was both of their last games until post-Worlds. How much more relaxing would it have been for everyone involved if Toronto could just head to Czechia or head on their vacations or head to practice, knowing that they already had an X beside their name?
Yeah.
Whereas Minnesota was desperate in a different way. I loved what Taylor Heisey said after the game. She was like, listen, we don't want to put ourselves in the same spot that we put ourselves in last year. And Taylor Heisey was the one that stepped up and was like, hell no, girls, we're playing tonight and we're not losing again. So I love to see that from her.
That's crazy to me. You got an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot. Like I would use games like this where it's like, oh, we try not to think about it. No, you absolutely do. Treat this like a game 5 or like an elimination game. You get out there and play. This is a must-win game. You mark it on the calendar. You tell them this is a must-win. Sorry. Sure, you had a flat first period. Get undressed, get dressed again. It's a new game. You know what I mean? This is a must-win game. Let's go clinch it. Because Troy's coaching at the Worlds as well. He doesn't want to be worrying about this either. He wants to be able to be like, you know, it's okay if you're a little nicked up. We've got time to, you know, rest after Worlds and we're already in our playoff spot. Everything's good. I don't know. I was just very shocked at the effort because it's not like any of these ladies are so new to the league that they aren't aware at how big these games are. There's a ton of seasoned vets on this team that knew exactly what was up and exactly what the playoffs bring and exactly how hard it is. I remember talking to all the ladies last year after Worlds. They're like, we asked them, is it tough playing after Worlds? They're like, we are not used to this. Yeah. We are used to our season being done and we are used to being on the golf course or somewhere hot. We are not used to this. Yeah. And so now it's like, well, guess what? It's happening again. So now you got even more work. We've heard from coaches, we've heard
from players. So many people have said to us, Tess, like, we want our business handled before those couple games after Worlds. So it's not very fun for the players that they're going to have to deal with that grind after Worlds. Yeah. However, it does make that last stretch extremely fun for you and I and for PWHL fans.
Totally. So Minnesota back in a playoff spot too with that win. They then leapfrog back over Ottawa.
Yeah. Again,
Minnesota. Did I say Montreal? I meant Minnesota. Sorry.
I don't know. I'm like, it's too Monday right now
I know. I went out 2 times this weekend. What's happening?
I know. We're both like just fighting for our lives. Yeah. So Toronto 45 points, Boston 40, Minnesota 38, Ottawa just looking in with 36 points. It's going to be insane, that game on Wednesday. And then I looked this morning, New York's playoff chances 0.83% of making the postseason right now. Do you like how I said that stat?
I do.
0.83.
I know. It was good. You're growing up. You're
all
a year
of our
older,
school
Julia.
Teachers are going to be comforted in knowing that I could say my
I love how, dude, I love how when we were in Ottawa, there was a woman that came up. She's like, oh, here's some things for you. Blah, blah, blah. Can you sign this? Yeah. Also, Julia, it's 0.12. I was like, oh, thank you for saying that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not like I didn't believe you, though, just to be clear. I took that on the chin. I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's totally fine. And I was like, you could be right. You could be wrong. What the hell do I know?
I love it. Yeah. So going to be great after the break and going to be great during the break, too. I'm kind of starting to get excited for World Championships. We're starting to see more rosters. We'll talk about we talked about Canada USA rosters. I know a few more rosters have come out. We'll talk more about that on Friday. All right, we got some breaking news in the PWHL. Unfortunate news for Hockey Canada fans and for Scepters fans that were looking forward to seeing her compete at the 2025 Women's World Championship in Czechia. But Hannah Miller has been deemed ineligible to compete for Team Canada by the IHF. Congratulations to Julia Gosling from the Scepters in London, Ontario, who will get a chance to defend gold. She won last year with Team Canada in Utica. So the decision on Hannah Miller, Tessa, a little bit convoluted, but mostly based on timeline is what we're hearing right now.
Well, yeah, based on what Gina Kingsbury had to say, GM of the Toronto Scepters and of Team Canada, that, you know, they were extremely disappointed that Hannah Miller wasn't able to compete for Canada at this upcoming World Championship. They felt like she had met all the conditions outlined by the IHF to represent her country, including the 2-year timeline around the transfer portal. And the fact that she named that, to me, feels like that was the reasoning they gave them. Now, I guess Team Canada must have been under the assumption. I don't know for sure. This is all me. This is all hearsay. I haven't had a chance to talk to Gina directly. I tried to call her a couple times. I'm assuming she's a little busy. But I'm assuming that they felt that the time she played her last game with Kara Shenzhen to the puck drop of the World Championship, that would allow exactly 2 years to the date, I'm going to assume. Now, the reason why she was named to the roster, I'm assuming they sent in the application. The rosters had to be submitted by a certain timeline, and they hadn't heard back from the IHF yet. So they just submitted it with Hannah's name on it, and then now just heard back from them. So that's why she was initially named. Because I remember you had asked me on one of our podcasts, does it mean she cleared? And I said, well, I assume so. Her name's on the roster, but in fact, she was not. So I'm going to guess that the IHF needs 2 full hockey seasons, having not played overseas. So this just means next year she'll be available if that is the true case. We don't know the true case or any like details or underlying stuff that went on. This is all we know, is that Gina did name the 2-year timeline around the transfer portal. So that's what I'm going to go on. That's my explanation, understanding with it all. And it's unfortunate for Hannah Miller, but hey, good to know for her. She's good enough to be there. She cracked that roster. She absolutely did. So
and
that's
they are
confidence.
optimistic
you take
about
that,
her future eligibility.
Absolutely.
Gina made sure to say she worked really hard to make this roster this year, and we look forward to future opportunities for her to wear the Maple Leaf. So it does sound like it was that timeline. Kyle Cushman, who does great coverage for The Score, he outlined exactly what her timeline was. The last time she played for Shenzhen in China was March 6th, 2023. Her first game in Canada was, of course, that January 1st, 2024 game. That was her first time playing in Canada. So 2 seasons, eligibility, not going to work out for this World Championships, but excited to see Julia Gosling show us her stuff in Czechia. But for now, Tessa, let's get to Spicy Tendies. Spicy Tendies brought to you by Ninja Kitchen. Experience the power of the #1 air fryer brand in Canada. You know what, Tessa? We've been handing out Spicy Tendies for not that long. We found that there has been some reoccurring suspects in this segment. However, there is someone who we have not given her flowers yet this season, and she is well deserving of them, especially after this last little run where she stepped up for the victoire.
A noob to the Spicy Tendy segment. Absolutely. Elaine Chuli, congratulations. You are our Spicy Tendy of the week. What a game against Minnesota, clinching a team's playoff spot, a 19-save performance. I mean, and look, she wants to play as much as she can. Obviously, as a backup, you want to get in and help your team whenever you can. But this was like, hey, Debbie's out. We need you to, drive the ship. And she was like, cool, let's get after it. And I think it's so cool how calm and poised and collected these goaltenders are when they're thrust into these positions in like a really, I don't want to say heated, but stressful a little bit spot where it's like don't think Montreal, everyone in the locker room was like, we are clinching today. You know what I mean? And like, She knows I got to be great. And she was fantastic. So for that, she earns our Spicy Tendy of the week.
Yeah, congratulations, Elaine Chuli. That was one of the saves of the year. I forget. Yes. I think it might have been Michaela Cava that she made it on. We talked about it last week.
The glove.
What a flippin' save. She is someone we're going to talk about expansion in a second here with our segment. And she's someone, I don't know, the teams have got to be drooling over the way that she stepped in with Anne Renee out right now. Okay, let's get to our interview now. World's coming up, Tessa. We've talked about it a couple times already this show. Imminent in Czechia, coming up fast. Last year, you and I were in Utica for what seemed like 6 to 12 months, but it was actually only about 3 weeks we spent in upstate Utica, New York. And the star of that tournament wound up being a player that was a rookie the year before in Brampton, Danielle Serdachny. She got the overtime winner to bring home the hardware for Canada on American soil. And I love the way Danielle Serdachny plays. Like, she hasn't found her full, she hasn't come into her full greatness yet, I don't think, in Ottawa. I don't think Ottawa Charge fans have seen the full capabilities of Serdachny yet. And we've talked about how tough it is to come into this league as a rookie. And she's finding her way, but we're so excited to talk to her, Tessa, and have her on the podcast. And we know she listens, so we were excited to have her on and hope we like held up to standards with coming on the pod.
I just want everyone to know we were supposed to interview her after the game on our visit in Ottawa, and we quickly pulled the plug on that. So we're very thankful that she was, polite enough and kind enough to say, it's okay, guys, don't worry, we'll reschedule. And so we did. We finally got her on after a win.
And also, like, shout out to her for being so gracious, because Danielle was still down to do that interview with us.
I know.
After that terrible game. And we were like, no, dude, you don't have to do that. And so many players would have been like double birds at us walking off the ice if we were planning to do an interview with them. So she's so gracious that she even considered doing that with us after a game like that. So here she is. She's honestly a pro's pro. She's grown up around pro hockey her whole life. For the Ottawa Charge, here's Danielle Serdachny on Jocks and Jills. All right, next on the Jocks and Jills podcast, we've been chasing her around for a while now. Edmonton's finest from the Ottawa Charge. Here is Danielle Serdachny. Thanks for hopping on with us today, girl.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Woo.
I mentioned we've been kind of chasing you around this season. We chased you in Ottawa earlier this week.
We have.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
thank you for not filing any harassment.
When Tessa and I are loitering outside the hotel. We are loiterers and stalkers. So thank you for coming on our podcast. Anyways, maybe we could take it all the way back to Edmonton to start, Danielle. Like, we were so happy to watch you in that takeover tour game, get to meet some of your family in Edmonton when the Charge played there this season. But do you want to tell us a little bit about, I can imagine that I could probably guess how you got into hockey, seeing as your dad worked in the NHL for a long time. But tell us about what you remember about being introduced to the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I started at a really young age, like you mentioned. My dad's a big hockey guy, so naturally all my siblings were kind of, I would say, forced into it a little bit, which I think was obviously worked out well. But yeah, I mean, I remember from a young age just always being at the rink. I have an older sister too, so regardless of the situation, it seems like we were living in a rink, whether that's with my dad or with all my siblings. So I grew to love it like almost right away, and I love being a part of a team, and I'm a really competitive person as well. So I think from there it just kind of took off, and obviously has been working pretty well now. So obviously grateful that my parents put me in this sport, and yeah.
Did your dad have a tactic for how he got you to fall in love with it? Because I think we've learned, like, no 2 or 3-year-old wants to throw on the wheels. Like, you don't really understand hockey at first. You're like, this hurts my feet. I can't move anywhere. Get me out of here. We've heard, I think it was Skimura's dad used to put Smarties on the ice for her and she'd skate after them. Did your dad have any tactics that kind of convinced you that you were a hockey player?
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty big sweet tooth as well. So I think like anything with candy on the ice, I was always down for that. So I think sometimes we'd rip through a whole pack of it, but definitely got me moving on the ice. So I think that was very smart on his end.
So you got a brother and 2 sisters, right?
Yeah.
And then there's your dad and your mom and yourself. So you said you're competitive. I can only imagine that the competitive gene has been instilled and like is a part of all of you. So what's like family game night like with the Serdachnys? Is it wild? Like, is it like to the bitter end? You guys are just battling for the W?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I remember through COVID, we played President and Asshole. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but yeah. Yep. So we played that card game for a while, like almost every night, and it would just get so competitive. Like people were so salty at each other, and we're like, okay, we need to calm down. Like this is just a card game, and we're all so aggressive. But yeah, I mean, definitely everything is pretty competitive around our household for sure.
Were you guys all working out together during the pandemic too? Like how hard were you pushing one another during that era?
Well, it was mostly me and my brother. At the time, my sister had already kind of retired from hockey. So me and my brother are pretty similar in age as well. So I remember somehow my dad managed to get ice like in the pandemic, like when everything was shut down. I don't even know how he did it. So we were skating a little bit as well. But I don't really know how, because like literally the whole world was shut down. He's like, hey, I got ice. And we're like, okay, like sounds good. We'll be there.
Leave it to Steve. Skills. I mean, of course, the guy's got ins. Let's be honest.
I was going to say, I feel like he has some connections to get ice, especially in the city of Edmonton.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it only hockey that you took to, or were there like other sports that you kind of dabbled in as well growing up? Because there's a lot of ladies that come on here that we find out are actually really good in other sports. as well?
Yeah. I mean, I did a little bit of everything. I know my parents were pretty hockey focused, but at the same time, they wanted me to try other sports. I did basketball, a little bit of volleyball, and then obviously like soccer, a bit of track and field. And then I played box lacrosse with the boys for a year. So
Cool.
that probably wasn't my favorite just with all the cross checking that goes on, but I mean, all pretty different experiences. And I think kind of help shape you like into a well-rounded athlete, which I can appreciate.
Like you said, mentioned basketball. We've had some basketball players jump on the pod. Like, what are your basketball skills? Like, are you like if you were to play bump or thunder or whatever they call it with your team? Like, are you winning? Because
we're looking
like,
to organize a Jocks and Jills Invitational basketball tournament at
100%.
Hotel X in Toronto at some point in the off season. So we're wondering if you're interested in putting your name forward.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the best shooter. I was a pretty good playmaker, I'd say, and I was pretty good at defense as well. I mean, I didn't take it too seriously just playing at school, but definitely had lots of fun. But yeah, I don't know if I'd win a game of bump. Depends kind of if I could get a tactic down and just bump the other person's ball away, I think would be my best bet to win
That
the
would
game.
have to be the move.
That's
I feel like
play,
I've seen lots of golf videos of you too. You a golfer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say more of a relaxed golfer, kind of have a drink on the course. Like,
I don't believe
just
that about you
enjoy it.
somehow.
So,
like, I just don't see you being a relaxed sports person.
I mean,
I hate to call you on
should
that,
say,
but I don't
yeah.
picture you that way.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be relaxed, I would say, but I definitely get a little bit upset when things aren't going well with golf, especially in such a patient sport. And I wouldn't consider myself the most patient person either. So depends on the day.
Beverage cart is for.
You're right.
Yeah,
that's what keeps it loose.
Yeah,
it's called a social golfer. You're there not for the scorecard. You're there to socialize with your 3 good pals on a course, sipping on some cold cocktails. I always start the round being like,
you know what, I'm going to keep score today. I'm really going to hold myself accountable. And then I have a blow up on the first hole and I'm like, could someone get the girl over here and get me a black cherry White Claw right now? Or else I'm going to freak out.
Yeah.
It always ends fast.
You just got to wait for that 8 to creep its ugly little head. And you just got to mark it down and move on. Everyone gets at least one.
Yeah.
At least one 8. Oh my gosh. But let's talk about like the evolution of your game. I feel like to have a father who's like a skills coach working, you know, with top end players in the NHL and stuff, you know, I guess I don't even know how I do it with my kids because I don't. But how does his job kind of transition into dad, you know what I mean? And being a hockey dad and then kind of molding you into the player that you are today? Or were you like, I like doing things this way. This is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of both. Like what people don't really know about him is that he's also pretty soft. So especially having 3 daughters, I'd say we kind of ran his show a little bit. So, I mean, he probably wouldn't like me saying that, but obviously having a skills coach and dad in one is pretty special. And him and my mom are both the like 2 most supportive people of me and are always there for me. So I think growing up, just being in that environment, and even when he worked for the Oilers, like getting the opportunity to sometimes go to the rink and just do things that like any other kid likely wasn't able to was really special. But yeah, obviously very fortunate to have him in my life for sure.
That's cool.
How do you walk the line? I know it's probably hard having a dad that knows so much about hockey. Like, how do you walk the line between like, okay, dad, let's talk about hockey, and okay, dad, get out of my ear because I need to figure this one out myself?
Yeah, I mean, my mom also kind of helps with that. Like, she knows, like, yeah, I'll just be like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about hockey right now. And they're pretty understanding of that, considering it's kind of our livelihood around here. So I think there's a time and place where you kind of just need to separate yourself from it as best as you can and kind of focus on other things. So definitely finding that balance is important as well.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard. I mean, I can relate to that huge. Just for context, my dad was also a hockey coach and stuff, and he coached me a lot through my career. And there was a moment in time where we needed to find a different way to communicate because talking hockey with each other was not very well. And I'm a daddy's girl. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love my dad and I needed my dad. So we decided, I was living away at this time. We decided we were going to Skype and he was going to teach me how to play guitar. And that's where our conversations would go as opposed to hockey. So I get that. And like moms step in huge. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like, would you hang up the phone kind of thing. But for the most part, it's always coming from a loving and caring place. So I can see it from your dad's point of view as well. Having kids now too. So is it hard, I guess, because they're still in Edmonton and you're all the way in Ottawa? Is it hard for them to have to watch everything on TV, or do they come in to visit you quite a bit now in Ottawa too?
A little bit of both. They came more towards the start of the year, but my brother goes to AIC in Springfield, so he just transferred there this year. And obviously, it's unfortunate because they are moving down to Division 2, so he's looking to transfer again. But I think they kind of wanted to be able to watch him a little bit more in person. So they were kind of bouncing between the two of us. And then also I have a little sister who plays as well. So they've done a lot of watching, I would say, on TV. But I think they're going to both come down to Czechia, I think, which will be really special as well. So excited for that.
Awesome.
Imagine showing up to an outdoor rink, Julia, over the holidays just to go play some fun shinny and the Serdachny family's there. You're like...
No. Get my stick and go home. I won't be participating. How fun was it though, Danielle, to have, like we mentioned that game in Edmonton kind of right off the top. What was that experience like for you? How many people did you have there? What was it like to get to play a pro hockey game on home ice?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I still kind of can't even believe it. I mean, I think I had 40 or 50 friends and family. Obviously, my family had a box there, so I think what was most special is kind of just having my grandparents there. I think just knowing that they likely would not be able to make the trip to Ottawa or anywhere else. So just having them there. And my grandma was pretty emotional there in the box, I think, during the starting lineup. She shed some tears. So I heard about that after. And I just think it was such a special opportunity for moments like that, which you don't really know when the last time something like that will happen. So I think that's what was really special for me.
That's cool. The grandparents, they always get you.
They really do. Poulina's grandma in Quebec City, like that's some of my favorite. Those are some of my favorite visuals from the season. I love the grandparent moments on the takeover tour. Did you also get stuck in Edmonton?
I was going to say.
Yeah, you were. Obviously, you're in Ottawa. We all heard about Ottawa being stuck for a really long time. You got more family time in? Like, that's cool.
I mean, it was like my mom was like, I'm happy that you're back, but I'm also like, I feel bad for you because when you're 2.5 hours in the air and they announce that you're turning back around to Edmonton, there's obviously a lot of emotions with that. So
we know
who had the best reaction. Actually, we haven't had anybody on and like really talked about this. Who had the most animated reaction on the plane? Like, did anybody did Zoe Boyd like lay in the aisle or something when that was announced? Like, what was the live reaction on the plane when that was happening?
I think everyone was just shocked. Like, we're like, what's going on? But then we turn like the airplane TV like on and you see that there's literally a plane upside down in Toronto while we're on the plane. And I'm like, holy, like, that's not good. But they were announcing everything in French before English. So Lacasse, I didn't see it, but someone was sitting beside her and she obviously speaks French. So apparently when they were announcing it, her face was like shocked. And then, but no one knew what was going on because not a lot of people speak French on our team. But yeah, it was definitely a crazy situation for sure.
That's wild. And it's like, we got to turn around to try and land now too. It's turn the TV off and stop watching.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Tough timing with the TV for sure. So
yeah.
I want to talk about your time, playing in Alberta and Edmonton, and specifically when the Canada Games were happening and you were on Team Alberta, the captain back in, what was that, 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
6 years ago. Huge feat. You guys won the Canada Games. I mean, usually I feel like it's one of the Ontario teams that reigns supreme or making a push for it. And your group, led by you, ended up winning that. What about that year do you remember the most, and especially about that win and what it meant to Alberta hockey?
Yeah, I mean, that was obviously huge for Team Alberta. And I think it was just felt like it was meant to happen, like being the underdogs. Like, Alberta's normally not even in like the talks to like win. And I remember we didn't even have a very good like round robin. Like we barely made it to the quarterfinals, and I don't know what happened, but there was something about that group, and we just kind of never gave up. Like we were the underdog in every single game, like from the quarters to the finals. And it just felt like was meant to happen. And obviously that was one of like my first experiences playing in front of a sold out crowd there, and the gold medal game. But yeah, it was definitely something that I'll cherish for a long time. And yeah, it was very special for myself and teammates, and obviously my family and friends that were able to attend as well. So definitely one of the cooler experience I had, for sure.
Who else was on that team with you? Was Markowski on that team too?
Yeah, she was on that group as well. So kind of full circle now that we're playing together.
Look at
again,
you two.
So,
yeah. Just can't get away from each other.
Yeah.
Is it like stepbrothers? Like, what actually is the dynamic there? Like, is like, don't touch my drum set, or what is the vibe? Like, who were we talking about on this podcast that somebody was following somebody else around? Maybe it was like LaRock and somebody else, maybe?
No, it was Saunier and Jenner.
Oh, yeah. Do you guys have that same dynamic? Like, stop following me?
I mean, I think we're both like, I would say more on the chill side. So we've known each other for so long that we're pretty much like siblings. Like we'll get into little arguments that are just like so dumb, but
sibling-esque
like,
arguments.
We're like, yeah. So it's just like the dynamic of the two, and our families are super close as well. So yeah, obviously love being her teammate, and also her roommate as well, as we've kind of been through it all together. So yeah, I can appreciate that.
That's
for
cool.
Sure.
So fun to have friends like that. I have one friend from home that lives in Toronto as well. And occasionally we have like, what the hell are we doing here moments together? Because we've also been like in Thunder Bay, like at a bush park, like just in a totally different scenario. And then we'll be like at an NHL event together and have like, what the hell are we doing here moments. It's nice that you get to share that with Steph. Do you feel like you have a lot of those? Like, was the draft one of those for you guys together?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think when she got drafted, my parents were more excited like when she got picked versus when I was picked. Like I'm pretty sure they like were like cheering, and I was like, okay. Like I mean, that was like obviously special too. Like just hearing her name and kind of the history of us, and being drafted to the same team. So, but that was like a pretty funny moment because people kind of mentioned it like, oh my gosh, your parents were more excited like when she got picked. And I was like, yeah.
That's true.
They were probably. Yeah, no, they were more so cheering for sure the fact that she got drafted to the same team. Like they were probably like, yay, my kid's got somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
100%. Not that you wouldn't have had people on the team, but at least you're going there in a new city with a new situation in a new league on a new team with someone that like is kind of your ride or die in a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of those like cool pinch me moments, Julia, well, this one's kind of high stress. At least I think so, because I've done it and it's very high stress. You actually threw out the first pitch at the Blue Jays game. Be honest, like, were you practicing a lot before you went there?
Well,
to throw it?
Not really. In my head, I was like, I'm going to practice so much, like, blah, blah, blah. And then when the moment came, like, we're in our 5th year of college, like it's spring, like there's a lot going on, like in this time of the year, like lots of fun.
This was right after you won. Was this after Brampton or after Utica?
Utica.
After Utica.
So it was like,
okay, so you were not in a place to be practicing pitching.
No, like we were pretty busy. I would say it was a busy 5th year spring for sure, for different reasons. So I actually didn't practice at all, but I did have a baseball in my apartment, just never kind of got to it. But yeah, that was definitely one of the more high stress situations I've been in. And I think they were playing the Dodgers, so there was like so many people there, and I was just like so stressed. And the girl kind of stressed me out before because she's like, just don't try and throw it hard, just like throw it like straight. So I'm like, oh, like obviously you want to make it to the base, but at the same time you don't want to be in like those videos of like worst first pitches ever. So
you don't want to be in that compilation.
No. So yeah, I definitely should have practiced a little bit more, but it went okay. I mean, the Blue Jays did a good job of editing the video, so I think it looked a little better than how it actually was, which was nice.
Were the girls, because all the girls were with you, were they chirping or were they being supportive? Like, what was the vibe?
More supportive. I think they knew I was like so stressed because I feel like in situations like that, I just like tense up immediately, and I wouldn't say I thrive in those sorts of situations. So my dad and his friend also came down as well, so they were really
Added
excited
pressure
about that. Yeah, yeah,
totally.
Did they tell you weren't allowed to step on the bump, like the pitcher mount? They're like, you have to stand in front of it?
No, they didn't. I mean,
didn't.
I don't think so. I mean, I kind of blacked out, so I don't remember, but like it was, yeah, I was like the closer the better probably. So that works too.
Yeah, I was told not to set a single toe on the pitcher. It must have been who was pitching, I'm going to assume. Because they must have been very finicky because they were like, do not step on the mound. And I was like, what? I want to. Like, I really want to. I want to do the toe kick in.
Yeah.
I want to do the full wind up. It was me and Bots. Bots was like 8 months pregnant. Throwing out the first pitch. I'm like, Bots, let me go first. I want to do this so bad. She's like, perfect. If you throw really bad, then I don't have anything to worry about. And I was like, let's not put that out there. But it's way further than you think, hey? Like, I remember being oh my God, I know I can throw, but like, is it going to make it?
Oh yeah, it's far. It's far.
It is. Yeah. And then like you look around and you're like, these poor guys that are out here all alone, and you look around and everyone's only looking at you. And you're man, it's like, do I have a booger in my nose? Like, are we all okay out here? It's super high stress. And you say you're not made for those situations, yet my gosh, I feel like you are. I mean,
was just going to say that too.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like individually, it's a lot different when you're standing there alone versus, I would say, in a team environment. I feel like that's something I struggled with too. Like, even I mentioned I did a little bit of track. Like, I would get way more nervous for track and field versus like a big hockey game, just because you're like there standing alone and people are looking at you. So,
okay, that's fair. You're a team girl, and obviously you threw the team on your back when you won the 2024 World Championships for Team Canada. Like, I hate saying like, what do you remember about scoring that goal? Because I know most of it is instinct and like you see the puck and you see a gap and you want to hop into it and score. Like, what do you remember about the aftermath? Maybe like, did you surprise yourself in that moment? What are your best memories from winning that tournament for Canada?
Oh, definitely. Like, that was such a surprise to me. I was like, what just happened? Like, just like especially like being so close to like where I spent my 5 years at Colgate, like having friends and family there. Like, obviously we were coming off a loss in the 2023 World Championship. So, I mean, there was like so many different emotions, but I just remember, like, I feel like in moments like those, you kind of just think about what's kind of like brought you to that situation, and just having like my coaches, like I mentioned, friends, family there, and my parents, obviously it was so special. But I would say, I definitely like blacked out a little bit, and I was like, what just happened? But it was such a special moment, and to come out on top with gold. I think my first World Championship gold with the senior team was incredibly special.
Just makes you realize how hard they are to come by. I guess you kind of have to reflect back too on your beginnings in a sense, where it all started with Team Canada when you were at the under 18 World Championships back in, it was 2019 as well, where you won gold. Do you remember what it was like to chuck that jersey on for the first time? Like, were some of those track and field nerves kicking when you were throwing that jersey on and repping Canada for the first time? Or was it just like you said, you're in a team dynamic, so the confidence and comfort was there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say similar feelings to like the track and field. I think just representing your country for the first time in Japan, which is also unique in itself. But I mean, it was my dream to play for Team Canada growing up ever since I kind of became aware of it. So it was, a dream come true. And that was kind of the era of time where at the U18s, the USA team was pretty dominant and kind of expected to win. So I think it was a little bit of an upset. I mean, with Canada and USA, you really never know how it's going to go. But to win gold there as well, I think that was a really special year, like I mentioned with the Canada Games and then the World Championship under 18 there. So definitely a special one.
Can you compare the wins, like what they felt like? Obviously, you scored the game winner in the Senior World Championship, but when you were playing under 18s, that's obviously your first major win with Canada. Did they kind of correlate the same, or feel the same, or do they have like a different meaning? Like, did you understand like this is great, but this isn't the one that I want, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think both were not, I would say, equally special, but in different ways. I mean, it's kind of funny looking back. Just I feel like the U18 tournament has grown so much as well as far as like the coverage and that sort of thing. Like I think even like a few years ago, or in 2019, I should say, like obviously there was like a live stream for the event, but now to see how the tournament, how far it's come with their games being on TSN and that sort of thing is really cool. But I mean, at the time, I think our game was being played at like 2 a.m. like Alberta time. So who really knows how many people kind of have a clue of what's going on other than your friends and family. But I would say they were both really special. And that tournament definitely gave me like a little hint of what it feels like to represent Canada, and was obviously pretty inspiring moving forward for the next few years.
Yeah. What about 2023? Like you were in such a unique position at that tournament because you were the only rookie on that team that at that point was like winning. They had come off a couple worlds in a row, had just I'm like kind of getting my timelines mixed up, but they were in hot winning situations. They won the Olympics, won two worlds, maybe three in a row. Like what was it like going into that dressing room?
I would say pretty nerve-wracking. I mean, like you mentioned, I was the only rookie on the team, and
Yeah.
a lot of these girls have spent like so many years together. Like a lot of them were obviously a part of the Olympic team, and with that, they spent kind of the whole year together. So I would say pretty nervous for sure, but they do such a good job of welcoming in new players, and obviously they all have their close friends, but at the end of the day, they're a team, and they want what's best for you, but also the rest of them. So they were very welcoming with me, which I really appreciated, obviously. But yeah, it was special for sure when I got that call that I found out that I made the team. Yeah, I was, I think, a little bit emotional, but it was obviously an honor, and we came up a little bit short there in the end. A little bit of a crazy ending in that one, but
insane.
Wild.
Yeah, I think experiences like that kind of motivate you and inspire you to kind of to keep pushing. So to come out last year and win gold, I think was even more special because of that.
On their home soil too, right? Like, was that added pressure being in Brampton and like having the sea of red? The crowd was so crazy. It felt like a pretty pivotal moment in women's hockey too, with the PWHL kind of being whispered about at the same time. Like, that was a crazy environment to play in Brampton.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely the added pressure, I feel like, of playing at home as well. Like you want to do well in front of your fans, but we came up short there. But I think it was kind of full circle as well, winning gold in Utica last year as well. So
yeah.
I know they kind of talked about silencing the crowd in Brampton. So I think we were kind of able to do the same thing there last year in the US, which was cool.
So you've won and you've lost at a world, so you understand just how small the margin of error is in big games like that. I guess, can you just talk about, how tight this rivalry actually is, like how close these teams are in terms of like a puck could bounce the wrong way once for your team and that's the game because it's a winner take all one game showdown. And so like now that you're living in it, like how close or how tight actually are these games?
Oh, they're so close. I think like both teams know that every single game could go either way. And like it's a little different. I'd say just playing with and against players, I feel like at this Canada US rivalry, but I feel like when we get to that tournament or even the rivalry series, like there's no friends on the other team. Like it's still competitive as ever, and definitely a lot of emotions as well. I know you guys have obviously watched and been a part of it, so I feel like you know that when it's Canada USA, there's so many different emotions attached to that, and I think that's what makes it so special as well, though.
Totally. We haven't talked about college at all yet. You had a great career at Colgate. You're Patty Kazmaier finalist a couple times, back-to-back ECAC champion in 2023 and 2024. Like, what led you to Colgate ultimately? Tell us a little bit about your college days.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a blast. I mean, they say it goes by so fast, and it truly did. I mean, looking back at it, it was the time of my life for sure. And I don't really know what led me to Colgate well, I do, but like I feel like I'm so indecisive. Like I cannot really make important decisions. Like it takes me so long. So I was kind of like waiting. I was in grade 11, and at that point, this is the time where people were committing in like grade 8 and stuff. So I'm just like still trying to figure out my life at this point. But Greg Fargo obviously was a big factor in that. I think just he cared for me as a hockey player and person, and I think that was kind of something that was really important to me. As far as the schooling, though, I actually was not very aware, which is probably sounds pretty dumb, that Colgate was like a pretty like high up education. So that was probably a good thing, because
you might be a hockey bro. You're a hockey bro at heart.
Yeah. So I did not know that, which was probably good, because honestly, that education was probably the best thing for me, like coming out of my shell and kind of being forced.
What did you take?
Economics and film and media.
Cool.
But it's a liberal arts school, so there's like so many different like requirements that you need to fulfill, and a lot of participation, and obviously attendance was really important in schools like that. So
can you help us with our budget after this? We'll talk.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to touch up on my schooling at this point, since I'm pretty hockey focused.
Could you budget for 10 margaritas on the road every Tuesday? Like, how did we make that work?
Yeah.
I know, that's awesome. A cool program.
Yeah.
Greg Fargo's such an awesome guy. Tess and I just got to meet him for the first time last week when we were in Ottawa. He seems so awesome. Like, what's it like to play for him?
Yeah, it was great. Obviously, I stayed all 5 years there, and a big reason was because of the coaching and teammates. But I would say he's very driven and very caring as well. There's lots of lows and highs, obviously, in the college game, but he was definitely one of my biggest supporters there, and always believed in me, which I think really helped me out through both the good and bad times. So to spend 5 years with him and then see what he's accomplishing now with New York. I'm obviously very, very happy for him, but it's also a little bit weird too at the same time, just like having like a great coaching relationship with him, and then seeing him on the other bench still takes a little bit of getting used to, but obviously really grateful for him. And then also Chelsea Walklin, she was kind of a big part of my career there as well. So
that's cool. When you guys won back-to-back ECAC championships in 23-24, what was the uptick with the team? Like, what changed? When did that like switch, or when did you kick it into sixth gear? Like, why did that happen?
I think we honestly just like believed in one another. Like, I think in times like that, it's kind of a high pressure situation, but I think in both those years we were kind of, I don't think we were supposed to win. Like at that time, like Yale was like kind of the favorite for that. So, I mean, I think just like we believed in each other, and we just had fun doing it. I know the coaching staff was really big on playing free and playing to your strengths. So I think just everyone was able to embrace that, and we were able just to come together and get it done. So those were some really fun years for sure, both kind of on and off the ice.
Any epic celebration stories you're allowed to share?
I mean, not many. I remember actually the coaches were like, you guys can't drink out of the trophy. Like, you can't. But then there were some rumors swirling around that they might have been doing it. So we were like, you know what? We're going to do it too. So I don't know how true the rumors were, or if it was someone on our team that might have started them. But we're like, well, if you guys can do it, we're going to do it too. So
that's funny. Actually, I remember seeing some videos of you, Danielle, like going to, like, did you guys show up at other teams' games in your full gear to inspire, was it the basketball team?
Yeah, it was the women's basketball team, actually. I don't know. Well, I do know how it happened. It was actually Derek, Greg, and myself. We were just at the men's basketball game, like a weekend game. And we were like, oh, like we should do something funny. Like, let's dress up in full gear. And I didn't think, honestly, the whole team was going to be on board. We're like, oh, we'll have a few of us. But literally, like, the whole team was on board. And their coach kind of called us, like, the sixth man. Because when, I don't know if it was, like, Bucknell or someone who they were playing, when they were shooting towards us in the second half, like, they had, like, such a bad second half. Like, the first half, they were, like, all over Colgate. Second half, like, when they were shooting free throws, we were going, like, crazy. And somehow Colgate pulled it off. So it was definitely a really fun one for all of us.
Like, how tight were the quarters? Y'all got your shouldies on? Like, the seats in basketball, like, you're literally like hip to hip when you go to a basketball game. Like, how tight were you guys in that student section?
Yeah.
Were you doing the old, like, slot in side lane?
Yeah, I mean, there were bleachers, so there wasn't like specific like individual seats, so that definitely helped us out. But yeah, there was a lot of sweating going on for sure as well. Like full gear, and the gym was pretty hot like in the springtime. So yeah, it was good. It was lots of fun though.
Oh, that's epic.
Awesome.
So going into the draft, with obviously your former head coach having the number 1 overall pick, like I know he was new to the organization. Was there a thought in your head like, oh, maybe I'll end up playing for Greg another however many seasons in New York going into the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's always a thought. Like it was kind of a strange period for sure, because I feel like I talked to him like a lot about the PWHL and that sort of thing. And then when he got hired there in New York, I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. But I mean, there's always that thought that there's something like that could happen. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's their choice on who they're picking. So I think it kind of worked out well for him for sure. Just obviously Sarah Philly is having an incredible season, and I think he's able to kind of get the best out of his players there as well. So yeah, it was definitely a thought too, and I know there was just a lot of emotions to attach with it. Like we had a really good relationship there at Colgate. So like I mentioned, a little bit of a weird situation, I'd say, but yeah, I'm really happy for him for sure.
Do you ever flip a puck over the boards at him? Like, hey, you know,
pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we still get along like very well. And even when I was in New York there, I ran into his wife and his daughter, and it's just nice to catch up. I mean, we're both kind of we're both new to this whole thing, so kind of can relate to that in a way. So
he's honestly, I know we talked to him a little before, but he's like a great guy. Julia had mentioned that you know, we had a chance to chat with him. He literally stood and chatted with us for, I want to say, a solid 15 minutes. And then he was like, well, I would love to keep chatting, but my family's waiting for me up there. I'm like, why wouldn't you tell us to shut up? And like, sorry, I've got better things to tend to. But like you said, he just seems like a really cool, down-to-earth guy that actually cares about the people in and around the league and that he's talking to. So, I mean, and you can tell, I mean, you were so gracious when we apologized for canceling our interview with you afterwards, that, you know, obviously you were raised right by your parents and you had some really good guidance by Fargo for those 5 years that you're at Colgate. So, and you still managed to come on here and not give us the gears about, you know, being a couple floozies canceling interviews on short notice. But yeah, I got to say, having a coach like that, that impacts you, especially in those formative years when you're in college, like means a lot. It almost like creates such a safe space in an unknown area, which I feel like in college, university, whatever you want to call it, year by year, it's like a new situation. Like you're growing, and also the school kind of changes and looks different to you as you go through, and as does the team, because right, every year players are graduating and leaving, and then all of a sudden you're in charge as a sophomore, mentoring some of the freshmen coming in. So nice to know that Fargo's the guy that got it done for you. I want to talk about a cool moment for you too, where you went to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final in Edmonton. How raucous was that crowd? What was that energy like in the building? And like for you personally, what did that mean, being an Edmonton kid and experiencing that? And did you take anything from that experience that you could use, I guess, this season or in seasons moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, definitely so special. I think like that's like the craziest I've ever seen Edmonton like be. Like that playoff like run was like crazy. Like the city was like so united that it was like honestly like special. Like that Game 6, honestly, they were down 3-0. Okay, Game 4 as well. When they got that initial win, like I think the whole city just was like, they're gonna do it. And then it went like Game 5, Game 6, and then obviously they came a little short in Game 7, but it actually worked out like kind of crazy well, because our family was supposed to go on a cruise out of Fort Lauderdale. So me, my dad, and my brother actually flew down to Florida. So we were at Game 7 as well.
No.
But it was so special, and just seeing how united the town or city, I should say, was incredible. And then obviously you have Connor McDavid there doing his thing and just kind of running show. But I mean, I definitely woke up pretty sad after Game 7 when they come up short there. But I'm hoping they kind of have another run in them this year. And it was awesome.
Woke up sad after Game 7, but then you were on a cruise, so everything was fine.
yeah, that definitely
could
helped.
Be worse. Could
the
be
cruise
worse.
helped for sure. So
that'll soothe the sorrows for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think they will? Can you give us like an Edmonton Oilers fan gauge for the moment? I think Draisaitl played the other night, didn't he? McDavid's still injured. Do you feel a big push again this season?
I do. I mean, I've always believed in them. I mean, even when they were going through their rough patch there, but honestly,
I don't think you could doubt those two guys in the playoffs.
No, like they're unbelievable. Like it's honestly insane watching them, and then watching them on the power play. You're just like, you see Draisaitl in that spot, like you just know, like it's like when he takes that one timer, it's like almost guaranteed. So I'm hoping they have it in them again, and I think that would be like, I can't even imagine what Edmonton would look like if they win a Stanley Cup. Like it will be like a party for like the whole summer, I think. So
yeah. It'll almost be as crazy as Ottawa Charge fans if and when you guys make the playoffs. I feel like your fans are so educated, so dialed in, and so committed to your team. Like it must have been pretty cool for you to move into, to go from being a super fan of the Edmonton Oilers and having that commitment and belief in a team to then go play for a team where I feel like their fans have that exact same sentiment towards you.
Oh yeah, they're unbelievable. Even like our crowds we get even throughout the week is like crazy. I mean, I remember one time this year there was like this huge snowstorm and still like 6,000 people showed up to the game, and I'm just like, wow, they're incredible, and obviously so supportive and passionate, and hoping we can make a playoff push here this year and kind of obviously give them the well recognition they deserve for being so great.
Yeah, like we have you on at such a good time. Absolutely epic game on Saturday at the final takeover tour game in St. Louis. You guys get the win in that one. Now you got another game against Boston coming up on Wednesday. Like it feels like a mini playoff series against Boston right now. What's the vibe check in the room going into that one? You guys must be feeling good.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've been like so busy, I would say, consistently, and we played like the same. We went New York, and then Boston and Boston. So obviously you're a bit more familiar with the opponent when you play them twice in a row. So I think everyone's super excited, and just knowing how close we are to the playoffs, I think like moving up into the standings, I think definitely has us all super excited, but also a little nervous as well. So
the nerves are just excitement.
I feel like you thrive in those moments more than you're giving yourself credit for. So maybe it's a good thing if you've got some butterflies.
Yeah. I think it hopefully will be good. So
yeah, we're pumped for that game on Wednesday. Pumped you came on with us. Like, thank you very much, and having so much fun watching you play this year, Danielle. Can't wait to see you continue to thrive and grow, and hey, hopefully see you in the postseason this year too.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much.
And don't blink, because you will be getting an email for the PWHL basketball team tryouts.
Stay tuned.
Perfect.
It'll be coming from either Julia and I, so stay tuned.
Perfect. I'll keep an eye out for that one.
I've been liking the vlogs from Danielle Serdachny too. Check out her YouTube. She's been making some game day vlogs. Great person. Great. I want to say great kid, but that like makes me sound so old.
And you guys are you're closer in age to her than you are to me. So
great
I
kid.
can call her kid.
Good kid. Good Canadian kid out of Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Danielle.
Just a fan.
On.
Thank you, Danielle. Absolutely. Serdax, what a legend. Excited to, like you said, hasn't reached her ceiling yet. Excited to see what the future brings for her.
Yeah, just only place to go is up. She's such a high ceiling. Can't wait to see it all. Let's get to the Send It segment now. Hi, this one's from Candace Bird. Big fan of the show. Tessa, when the PWHL expands, do you think they will use an expansion draft by protecting a certain number of players on each team, or do you think they will come up with something truly unique? Thanks, Candace Bird.
So
we've been talking about this. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see. We've heard expansion news, very imminent, guys. We might hear this week, maybe on Friday's podcast, we'll even be talking about expansion. I'm not 100% sure, but keep your eyes obviously on the PWHL social media and on the news for announcements regarding expansion. But just so you guys know, when we answer this question, I don't have any idea of what's going to happen with the expansion draft. So this actually really is just us riffing off one another with what we think would be a good idea.
Way above our pay grade, first of all.
Yeah.
Secondly, I like in my head, yes, there absolutely will be players that are protected on every team. That team will be allowed. How do you not do that? You have to do that. And then as far as getting creative with the way they're going to do the rest of it, yeah, this is what the league does. Is they do things not your prototypical NHL way. They're like, yeah, cool, we like that idea, but also this. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like I wouldn't put it past them to come up with something cool and unique and kind of like, oh gosh, that's like a good idea. Why wouldn't the other leagues do this kind of thing? But I also wouldn't be surprised if it's like protect 4 players or 3 players, whatever. You know, you can protect 2 forwards, a D, and a goalie, or whatever it is, or 5 players even. I'm not sure what they're willing to do, but I wouldn't be surprised if they allowed like a player from each team's top line get nipped.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you can only protect 2 players, 2 forwards, 1 D, and a goalie. So you want to talk like whoever is, if there is an expansion, whatever team gets to pluck, they got their hands, like they're looking at all the goalies, one, not only entering the league, but what Tendies have been a fantastic backup and have played in this league and in big games as well. So like, they're probably licking their chops at the likes of Gwyneth Phillips, like you said, or Lane Chuli, but also some of the studs that are going to be, you know, declaring for the draft as well. But yeah, I would expect a little bit of PW flair on the expansion draft.
Always. I don't know exactly what it is, but you always expect a little something different with this league.
Absolutely.
Should mention, I've neglected to mention that the draft declaration period had opened. It's open until May 8th. We've been getting some questions about player eligibility and how do we know who's eligible. So once everyone has declared their eligibility by that May 8th deadline, we'll be able to share that list. The league will share the list soon after, and Tessa and I will yap about it accordingly, as we do here on Jocks and Gels. Guys, we've been teeing them up this whole show, but a couple great games this week. New York at Montreal. Tessa and I will be there. We're going to do a meet and greet pregame. We're going to do some Tessa's takes. We're really excited to meet you all. Let us know if there's anything else you want to see or things we should do in Montreal. We're going to be at that game. So keep an eye on our social media for where exactly to find us at Place Bell. And then the big one Wednesday night, Ottawa at Boston. I'm pumped to break that down with you. I'm pumped to watch. It is going to be appointment viewing on the couch. And that will lead us right into the international break, Tessa. That'll bring us to Worlds, and we'll talk on Friday, and then there will be an international break. And then, damn, we're into the heat of things.
I know.
Playoffs are looking us right down the eyes. So thank you guys for listening. As always, we appreciate meeting you guys and talking to you guys. We appreciate you guys sending in questions for the Send It segment. You could send them to our email, jocksandgills@gmail.com. Anywhere on our social media. We're on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky, and X. Like, you can find us anywhere. Send us a message there anytime you want to get in touch. Thank you to our sponsors, Shark Ninja, CCM, Pizza. We love you guys. Thank you for helping us put this on. As for the rest of you, wow, like big week of hockey. We're excited for it, and we will talk to you on Friday.